course. Now, naturally, our membership is deeply disappointed by the finance minister's failure to pay coupons and matured principals of pensioner bondholders exempted from the domestic debt exchange program. Now, that is or other sentiment of the pensioner bondholders forum over what they say is a deviation from the market dictate for the treatment of holders of exempted bonds. Specifically, they say their concerns are focused on the delayed timing and payment of overdue coupons and principals to pensioner bondholders. In February this year, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, gave the assurance that government will honor its obligations to bondholders who opted not to be part of the domestic debt exchange program. Mr. Ofori-Atta gave the assurance at a joint press briefing with the Pensioner Bondholders Forum in Accra in February. But the bondholders revealed government is backtracking on its own promise. Let's share with you part of the statement that they released on this. Now, the Ministry of Finance exempted all pensioner bondholders per 8 letter on 15 February 2023. When they issue a grant exemption to bondholders, it effectively reaffirms that it has no financial challenges whatsoever in meeting the coupon and principal payment on such exempted bonds. The government extended the settlement date of the exchange from the previously announced 14th February 2023 to 21st February 2023 to provide sufficient time to settle new bonds. The statement continues that it was expected that on the settlement day, government was going to pay coupons and principals that were due and payable. Government did not pay and nothing was heard from the ministry. After meeting the Minister of Finance on 27th February 2023, the ministry indicated that it was taking administrative steps to ensure that payment of coupons and principals of the old bonds resumed by 13th March 2023. Now, it says that by close of business on 13th March 2023, the ministry had not made any payment, compelling us to come out with a press release on 14th March 2023 to register our disappointment. The ministry came out with a press release the same day that affirmed that the ministry had given instruction for the payment of coupons and principals of bonds that matured on 6th February 2023 and coupons due on 13th February 2023. Now, holders of the bond were to expect to receive their payment within the next 48 hours. We wish to confirm that pensioners have since Wednesday, 15th March 2023, been receiving coupon and principal payment. We, however, wish to reiterate that pensioners were exempted from the DDEP and consequently must always be paid their coupons and principals on due date without delay and in the same manner as was done prior to the DDEP. Now, the statement continues to say that the ministry should take immediate steps to pay pensioners all their outstanding coupons and matured principals as at 20th March 2023 and pay all subsequent coupons and matured principals religiously on due date. If the anomaly situation was or we are complaining about persist, we shall be left with no other option than to explore other means of getting resolution to the situation. Now, in relation to that, government is also preparing itself for what it says will be a make or break week as Ghana races against time to secure the much-needed IMF board agreement before the end of the month. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is attending two crucial meetings, first with China and the second with the Paris Club as part of Ghana's external debt restructuring plan. Now, joining us on Zoom is Professor Gov't, an economist and finance professor at the University of Ghana. Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, first, let me start with you on what the Pensioner Bondholders Forum has put out today. Was this happening something you expected?
I wouldn't say I've been entirely surprised because government posture from day one seemed to suggest that if you didn't tender, you didn't swap your old bonds for the new ones, you were going to be punished in one way or the other. You could get that from the body language and all of that. But I want to believe that the pension holders persisted. And I think they got what they wanted. To the extent that the Ministry of Finance issued a statement to exempt them following their persistence. The ministry had no justifiable reason to delay payment. The reason I'm saying so is that, look, it is in the best interest of government that we calm the system and begin to rebuild. How do we build forward better and inclusively? So remember that the domestic debt exchange really has impacted our financial sector. So now that we are done, every step that we take should inure to the inclusive rebuilding of our economy. And that is where I am worried, because if we focus all our time that we need to get the IMF program, yes, that is important, but you need to do what you have to do in your domestic economy in building confidence and trust. What unsettles me in all of this is that we are having one too many U-turns, right? And for me, it's a bit concerning, because you see, managing the economy, you also want to manage the expectations, so that if government says X, I should not take that to mean X bar. Okay? If government says that they are going to make payment on this date, I mean, even if government wasn't going to keep that, there should be a proactive communication to inform the market. Okay, so what is going on is not good overall in building policy credibility. Okay, because remember that even if we get the IMF program, that alone will not be sufficient to engineer inclusive economic recovery.
Okay, Prof.
So and the fact that it's happening to pensioners, I think the way we treat our pensioners and the vulnerable and the socially excluded, all that we are doing typifies our lack of appreciation and respect for the aged, the vulnerable, the socially excluded, the marginalized. And I think that is not good.
Prof, on the part of the minister meeting with the Chinese counterpart as well as the Paris Club, you predicted last year that it wasn't possible that government was going to secure that deal by close of 2022, and that you expect that we could get an IMF staff deal. We got it. Now, on this meeting, what are your expectations?
There are so many factors that are outside the control of government. Okay, and that's what makes it a bit challenging now. We had hoped that we're going to get the IMF program by the end of Q1, quarter one. Okay, and the president himself, during the State of the Nation address, told us we're going to get that. But looking at what has happened, looking at the dynamics, the global geopolitics and all of that, it looks realistically to me that we should be looking at somewhere May, thereabouts. More so because there are certain prior actions that we needed to secure. And this time round, it's not about publication of COVID-19 audit report. That has been done. We've also seen some steps in the area of utility adjustment. So now if you see ECG all over the place, remember that the program is going to be heavy on some of these adjustments in the energy sector. Because if you look at the 2023 budget alone, there's now a line item for energy sector indebtedness. In the next 3 years, it's over 70 billion cedis. Okay, so it tells you that that's a big hole that has to be closed. But the real issue now is that how can Ghana get assurances from our development partners, bilateral especially, that they will commit to close the funding gap? Typically, the funding gap could be closed from two main sources, either through debt relief or assurance of fresh funding. Okay, and so far, if you look at the framework that the IMF will prefer, the G20 framework, it appears that China is not comfortable, right, under such framework and all of that. And also, if you look at our indebtedness to China, really, it's not something that will break our back. So from day one, if we had done our assessments well, and this is something that I think government needs to take another, there should be a clear strategy.
Okay.
There should be a clear strategy from step 1 to step 2 and all of that. What is our plan B? We need to do all those stakeholder mapping in all this journey to securing an IMF program, so that the president doesn't use the State of the Nation address to tell us that we are going to get a program by the end of March. Okay. And it turns out to be the opposite. It is not good.
Prof.
overall. So I think that so far, the indications are that we are going to miss the March deadline, and probably we should be looking at May, hoping that. But once we've said that, Ghana itself hasn't done anything from fiscal adjustment or expenditure side to merit any country to do extraordinary for us. I mean, how do you expect that to happen?
Okay. Prof, on that question, just 30 seconds. On what you've just said, what do you expect China and the Paris Club to do on the fact that we haven't done anything on our own part?
I think that we know that from the Paris Club creditors, they are more willing. But also, if you look at the composition of the debt stock, you could see that we owe so much to China relative to the other Paris Club creditors. So if the framework is such that they must all forgive, then it's easier for someone to forgive because he's forgiving so less, while somebody is forgiving so much. But then you also want to look at it within national policies and orientations, right? Japan, China, are they really interested in debt forgiveness or probably restructuring?
So do you expect them to forgive us? Do you expect them to forgive us?
In fact, from where I sit, personally, I think that Ghana should not be begging for debt forgiveness from China. $1.5 billion should not be the reason why Ghana cannot get an IMF program.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
I think that we have to be responsible as a nation after 66 years of independence with all that we have. No.
Prof, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us here. Dr. Anani Entry has been with us since we started. Doc is the convener for the Bondholders Forum. I'm grateful to you for joining us, Doc. What is informing your fears of government not honoring the payment of bonds due?
Well, thank you. I think that we have already, on the 14th, we came out with a statement that the government was supposed to pay coupons and maturing principals after the close of the settlement day, which was 21st of February. We waited until 27th of February. We haven't heard anything, and we had to go to the ministry with the other two groups to find answers to the delay. That same day, the ministry came out and with a statement that it had instructed that the payments should start, but that they were going to do for only two coupons and maturity values that were due on the 6th February and coupons on the 13th February. Meanwhile, at the time that the government was making that statement, there were other coupons and principals that has matured. One of the principals matured on the 20th of February, and the other one matured on the 6th of March. There were other coupons too that were due around the same period. But the government said it has given instruction for only the 6th and the 13th February, which means the others were still outstanding, and government said it was going to announce in due course when that payment was going to be made. And we realized that no, that is not how you have to treat pensioners who have been exempted from the program. Once exempted, the affirmation is that you reaffirm that despite the economic challenges that you are having, for the exempted bondholders, you don't have an issue with them, and you continue to pay regularly as you have been doing. That is the meaning of the issuer exemption that I continue to explain, that they are not in the finance textbooks, but that is a practice. Once you, as the issuer exempt you, the issuer has said, you don't come nearer to where my problem is. You don't have a problem. You can go and sleep. When you wake up and it is due day, just go and check your accounts and it will be there. That is the issuer exemption status that government has granted us. So we are saying that you can't grant us this status and treat us otherwise. So please pay all the arrears and start paying as they become due. If any of the bonds maturity becomes due, if any of the coupons become due in the hands of the pensioner bondholders, pay as you have been paying before the DDG program came about. That is all that we are saying.
There were enough writings on the wall that the state was in a challenge. The money to pay you was going to be a difficulty. So how much of a time were you willing to give the state to be able to settle you when your bonds become due?
Well, we said that once the state, and the state has to take all things into consideration before granting us. Once the state has granted that option, that exemption, then we believe the state knows where to find the money to pay. Of course, these days, if you are even an ordinary debtor, treasury bill rate has come down. So if you are borrowing to pay off bonds that are priced higher than the T-bills, that is good for you. So the treasury bill market is there. It's always oversubscribed. Government takes what it thinks it needs. If government needed money to pay and it doesn't have, you would have taken more of the treasury bill loans that people were trying to give to government. So I believe government has money. If government didn't have money, it would have taken more of the treasury bills, because the treasury bills are there for government, and the rates that you are borrowing is lower than the rates that you are the bonds that you are retiring.
Okay. Doc, will you picket at the ministry again in demand of the government honoring those promises?
I believe the government will not allow that thing to happen again. What happened was created a bad image for the nation. It was not even the time that we were struggling for independence that you saw elderly picketing. So it wasn't a good thing to do. Again,
so is it something you would employ if they don't honor those payments? Well,
if we are pushed to the wall, and that is what, but we don't think we will be pushed to the wall. I think government has come to realize that it was not a good thing to have allowed.
Okay.
So we believe, as we are pointing out to government, they will do the needful so that these things will not happen again. Okay.
Doc, I'm grateful that you could join us here. Dr. Anyintri is convener for the Pensioner Bondholders Forum.